Hello, this is Dr. Malego, and in this video, we're going to talk about managing large assignments that often are part of our college experience. Okay, so you get this project. It says, submit a 12 to 15 page research paper on a topic of your choice that involves at least one element of diversity. Use at least 5 scholarly resources and provide proof of having visited the Writing Center for coaching. It's due in 6 weeks. Good luck. Here are your options. Either option 1, freak out about this paper. Also, don't do any other work because you're so afraid of this assignment that even the thought of writing your name on a piece of paper makes you think you can't do it. Or option 2, pace this assignment out by giving yourself mini due dates along the way. There's something called Parkinson's Law, and that is that the work that you're going to do takes the amount of time you have available for it. So if you have a long time before you need to turn something in, like 6 weeks, a lot of times what people will do is they'll have like a little energy about it right at the beginning, and then they'll do nothing for a long time, and then right before it's due, they'll hurry up and try to do the whole thing right at the end. So what we want to do instead, so that we can do our best work, is we want to break down the tasks so that this paper is not overwhelming. It's just a bunch of very small assignments that all of a sudden at the end become a research paper. So let's take a look at this in action. I took the example of writing a research paper and I tried to break it down into a bunch of little steps that I would do. So first of all, we need to know what our topic's going to be. Because remember, this research paper, we didn't really have the exact topic that we had to write on. We're coming up with that ourselves. So first, I'm going to spend about 30 minutes brainstorming ideas. So in my schedule for the day, I'm going to tell myself, hey self, we're going to spend 30 minutes at the coffee shop, sipping a drink and just writing down ideas. At the end of that time, I'm going to pick 3 to 5 topics, maybe circle them, that I think might be the most viable, that might make the best paper. Then I'm going to set up an office hour time to talk with my professor about which of those topics might work best, and I want to get their input. Because that's going to help, your teacher is going to be able to see and say, okay, I see where you're going with this. I can kind of understand your interests, but they have the knowledge of maybe resources or other angles that you could take, and they can help you leave with a topic. Okay, so you're going to commit to a topic and develop what you think is going to be either your thesis statement or maybe the key questions. So all of that, I would say, brainstorming, that's one session. When you're done, check it off. Done working on the paper for today. Picking 3 to 5 topics you think sound good? Maybe that's what you're doing on Tuesday. Set up the office hour, commit to a topic. Each of these are separate steps. And when you're done, you can reward yourself because you got something done. Now, the next thing I would do is I would go back to what do you already know? I'd go back to brainstorming and I would start taking notes. What do you think you already know about the topic? What key points do you think you might want to include in the paper later? And then that's just one day, one little assignment for yourself. Then I would organize these ideas into a rough outline in another session. You might not keep all these things later, but that's going to help you start to put together a framework that you can use to write your paper. The next thing we need to do is we need to get some sources, and we want to use the actual library, either physically going into the library with our, walking into the building, or there also are library databases, and those should be able to be found on your library's website. Also, things like, online resources and Wikipedia and Google and stuff, they're good for like, how long do you boil eggs? But they require a lot of vetting to actually, for research papers. You also want to use the resources of the library staff. They are able to help you, like they went to school for this. And so by using them as the resources, they're actually going to show you things that are going to help you with the next paper you have to write or the next project you have to do. Don't shy away from things like interlibrary loans, articles, even sources that are in other languages. So interlibrary loans and articles, the library staff can probably help you obtain those, even electronically, so you don't even have to get out of your jammies to go get them. It's pretty amazing. As far as resources that are in other languages, if the source is great, then you might be able to see either a language teacher at your school, or you might be able to connect with a student who knows the language, or even use some online translators to get enough basic reading knowledge to be able to see what it says. Depending on your field, you might encounter a lot of resources in other languages. Next, you want to gather information. for this gathering of information time, you might just say to yourself, in each session, I'm going to look at one resource. So today I have this book. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to go through this book and I'm going to decide if there's anything in it that's useful for me for my project, or if not. If not, I'm going to put it in the I'm not using it stack. Otherwise, I'm going to keep it in the useful stack. And you are going to need these when you make your bibliography. So make sure that you keep track of the resources. You can take notes on Post-it notes stuck in the books. You can use index cards. That's kind of old school. You can take your notes by actually typing into like a separate file. But as you're doing that, you want to make sure you're keeping track of page numbers for citations. Okay, so each resource is a separate session. Then we're going to sit down, new session. We're going to sit down and we're going to make an outline. So we're going to use that earlier brainstorming outline we had and our new knowledge from gathering information. We're going to put all that together and make out an outline that's basically what the paper might look like. You can make this as detailed as will help you at this time. And then another session is dividing the paper into chunks that you can write each chunk in one session. So maybe subtopics along the way. Then you're going to write the first draft, one chunk at a time. You sit down, you write the section about the whatever topic it is, and then you go and you do something fun and come back and do the next one later. When I write a paper, I like to do the introduction and the conclusion last, after I've written my paper and I have kind of a little more sense of like where everything's going to go. As you go, make sure you enter the citations. So a big time suck for later is if after you're done with your whole paper, you have to go back through and look for all the citations. As you use a source, go ahead and create the bibliographic entry for that. So you might have to add a step in here before you start doing much writing, and that might be familiarizing yourself with the style manual. So if your teacher is saying you're going to use APA or Chicago Manual of Style or whatever, that might mean that you have to take some time and actually learn a little bit about how you're going to do that. Then a separate session, I would sit down and proofread the first draft, make some edits. Then I'd have somebody look over the paper. Then I'd make more edits, take it to the writing center, make some edits, and then before I turned it in, I would review the requirements of the paper again and make sure I looked at any grading rubrics or anything before I submitted. So you can see this is actually pretty detailed. There's a lot of stuff that's going on. So what I would do if I knew I had 6 weeks to do all of this is I would set miniature deadlines along the way. In that way, I'm not looking, this is overwhelming to sit down and do at the last minute. And what ends up happening is you can't submit your best work because you're trying to rush and do it at the last minute. But it's also overwhelming at the beginning to think of just setting aside like a huge days and days of time to write this paper all in one sitting. And that's why all of these little steps along the way will be helpful. Now, you can apply this to any project that you're working on. It doesn't have to be a research paper by breaking down the project into steps that are manageable. I hope these helpful hints have helped you to better manage your next big assignment, and that will help you become a college success story. Thanks for watching.